Hello and welcome to the Channel 5 News. I am Idona Jean Baptist. Coming up, the Ministry of Education is reporting 93% of secondary schools and over 50% of primary schools are now open.
Recently, the Ministry of Education reported that 13,575 students and 1,016 teachers were affected due to the passage of Hurricane Maria, with 20 schools being used as hurricane shelters. The ministry is targeting the end of December as a deadline for all students to be in temporary or permanent learning structures.
We have 58 primary schools. As of Monday, 33 of them have been opened. We still have some little teething issues in some areas which will affect them, but as they come on stream, they are opening as their water supply become sure, as we finish off with the cleaning, because in some of the areas a lot of debris to remove in some areas. So we have 33 out of 58 primary schools open, and we have 14 out of 15 secondary schools which have opened. Of all the schools, there are some 15 schools which are still shelters. 11 of those are primary schools. Okay. Out of the 33 primary schools opened as of Monday, 22 have opened for all students, while 11 are open only for their upper grades, that is their grade 5, their grade 6. Okay. We have 18 primary schools who are working towards a later date for reopening. Generally for our schools, we have a mixed feedback. There is a lot of anxiety among our students. Some are, especially where we have not had classes yet, some of them are agitating. When are they going to have classes? Some of the parents are showing concern. One of the issues for us is that some of our schools are used as shelters, so we are working with social services and the Ministry of Housing to facilitate persons in the shelter. We have 11 primary schools which are shelters. A significant one is like Roosevelt Douglas Primary School, which has a huge number of parents, persons there in that shelter. We have Roosevelt Primary School, and we have a number of others around Dominica. But presently we are in this initial phase, because all our schools have been damaged. We have some 27 schools with partial damage and about 22 with major damage. We are presently doing structural assessments with public works and with private engineers to look at the status of our school, to look at the costing, and to make recommendations. In some cases we may have to demolish and rebuild brand new schools, and in other cases we have roofs to repair. And as we consider that, we have to look at building resilience in our buildings. So we have to look at the standards, and we are working with some of the international bodies on that, the standards, so that whatever we're doing with our schools, they can withstand hurricanes, earthquakes. We are working with some international agencies in that regard. We have already gotten commitments from a number of agencies to assist us rebuilding our schools better. But in the immediate, we are preparing temporary learning spaces for our students, because we need to give them structure, we need to give them some hope, we need to give them help as they recover from Hurricane Maria. So at a number of schools we have set up tents, temporary learning spaces, because in some areas we cannot use the buildings because of obvious reasons. We have set up some 26 tents across the country. We are still awaiting some huge ones with toilets and chairs. We have purchased some from the US, and we are waiting clearance of those from the port so that we can set up spaces for all our students. We are hoping by December, at least by the end of the first term, all our students will be having instruction, whether in temporary spaces or in permanent spaces. Even where some of our buildings, we have permanent structures, like some of the areas with concrete roofs, we still have damage to windows and doors. So initially in our first phase, we are trying to provide temporary learning spaces for all our students. In our next phase, we will be looking at repairs to some of our schools, and in our final phase, we will be working at where we have to do construction, where we have to do in terms of building that back better at our roofs, and so on. We are doing that. And a concern for us too has been the wash facilities at our schools, that is the water supply and toilet facilities. So we are on a drive to ensure that all our schools have water tanks. We have a number of communities that do not have pipe-borne water yet. So we are in the process of installing tanks in those areas. We are working with the Wasco to truck water for us to fill those tanks, and so that some sort of learning can take place in all our schools. We are also trying to provide psychosocial support to our staff and our students. This is ongoing. We have done most of the schools in the north, in the west, in the south. We still have schools in the east and in the northeast area to complete. The reception has been good to that. At least we give persons a chance to debrief, and the teachers who are trained in that area will in turn do the same sort of training, the same sort of support to the students.
And that was the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education giving an official report on how Hurricane Maria affected education in Dominica. Reporting for Channel 5 News, I am Kenny Williams.
Domlec has what is being described as an uphill task, with 97% of residential properties still without power. Domlec has so far restored electricity to 2.5% of homes.
It's an uphill task. We've pledged to, to deliver as quickly as we possibly can. We've also been doing a lot of reconnections to domestic properties in and around the city. We have, as of November 5, we have 524 persons up in Portsmouth, and so far in Roseau we have 483.
If you are to give a percentage of the number of residential properties that have already been powered up, can you say?
No, up to last week we had about 2.5%. We're just within the Roseau area, and so we have not done a calculation because we haven't got the figures in as to how many more have been brought online. So it is difficult to say at this time. I know it may seem small, but to us it's a huge accomplishment knowing the kind of damage that we suffered. I mean, 98% of our infrastructure was damaged, and so to us it's a big accomplishment.
Aside from the pressure to restore electricity to homes, Domlec is also working round the clock to power up businesses.
As we speak, the city has been powered up. The entire city of Roseau has been energized. A lot of the businesses have been connected, and our focus from day one has been to get the business community back up and running so as to stimulate economic growth in the country. So we're happy that the city of Roseau has been energized. We also just energized the Kinfield Industrial Estate. So areas like Digicel, the call center, and all the businesses down there should be able to get power within a few days. Some of them already have power.
The restoration effort in the city is also being matched with work in the town of Portsmouth. Power was restored to Ross University as of October 11.
We have the northern team, where they're joined by the team from BLPC, and now they're joined by the team from Vinlec. And they've been doing quite a lot of work too. They've been doing a lot of work through the PCAD area because work continues there. They've energized the line through the Kipinski Hotel project, so that has been energized, and they're now working to start to rebuild the line towards the airport. So those teams are working quite feverishly, and we have teams all around. We have teams in the heading to the south because we want to start building the low voltage line in that area of the island. And of course we continue to work within the Goodwill. And I know some areas it's going to take a while before we get there because some of the access and the heavy utility vehicles will pose some difficulty to get to some of those areas where roads have been cut and roads have been damaged. So we're just asking for continued patience from customers island-wide,
While hotel owners grapple with the impact of Hurricane Maria on their properties, one hotelier remains committed to having his property up and running by December 2018. Andrea Dhui has that story.
While the hotel sector was dealt a crippling blow by Hurricane Maria and hotel owners are still assessing damage and putting the pieces together, one hotelier is determined to have his property up and running by December 2018. The CBI-funded Jungle Bay Resort and Spa is currently under construction at Mona Kuma on the southwest of Dominica near Soufriere. Previously, Jungle Bay was located on the southeast of Dominica in Point Milat near Dalis. Following the passage of Tropical Storm Erica in 2015, that Jungle Bay location was severely damaged and Mona Kuma was approved for construction works of the new Jungle Bay Resort and Spa. Construction work started earlier this year, and hotelier Sam Raphael says that though the site was not left untouched by Hurricane Maria, the utmost effort is being put into having the new Jungle Bay Resort and Spa open by December 2018.
Well, like every place else, you see the trees, it did quite a job on the natural landscape. That's sort of the biggest challenge to this area for Jungle Bay. You know, unfortunately, a lot of people suffered tremendous loss in this area, in particular Point Michel. I think that had a higher per capita, mortality rate than any place else, unfortunately. But the community is, a cohesive community. Soufriere, Scott said, Galion, they're coming together. We lost road access for a while, so that set us back. Now we have road access, but it's not really what it will be. So it's being worked on. Everything is work in progress. And this week we brought the guys back 5 weeks after the storm. We brought part of the team back. We wanted to bring everyone back this week, but we weren't able to do so because of the logistics. We need to move aggregate materials, sandstone, cement for them to work. We need to, and that's presenting a challenge right now. They're actively working on improving the road, so as that improves, we'll be able to bring people back. We want to let our team resume their normal lives, and really get on with the construction, because we have a deadline that we are targeting, December 2018. It's getting more and more ambitious with these challenges, but we still want to open, as close to that date as possible. Also, too, you have to recognize that Dominica lost a lot of its hotel infrastructure. So we have less than half of the hotel rooms we had the day before Hurricane Maria. And so the new hotels like Jungle Bay, we really need to make sure we step up so that we can provide some accommodation for visitors to come maybe in a year and a half from now.
Well, I do hope that you meet the deadline. But speaking of the property, you mentioned the trees were stripped bare. But in terms of the buildings really under construction, or even equipment on the property, were any of that damaged?
No. Actually, the new buildings are pretty solid. We got our Maria 2 years before everyone else. She was called Erica at the time. And so we made some revisions, and that's worked out fairly well for us. We are going to be cladding. You see a lot of concrete and you see stone. Everything will either be stone or it would have a wood facade. So we'll still maintain that rustic Jungle Bay look and feel, but underneath it will be tied steel and concrete. So that's sort of the way we move. And I think it's a good thing for Dominica to think about, because even with people's homes and so on, there seem to be patterns of weakness in construction. And so we need to really pay attention to strong building practices to make sure that we can withstand these storms, because we just don't know when we'll get the next one.
I remember following the passage of Tropical Storm Erica, you had pledged support to your staff as they went through that difficult period. It's 2 years later, another major weather system affected us. What is your support like to your staff?
Well, again, we brought in 2 boatloads of supplies for our staff, and so they were very grateful for that. But the biggest gift you can give your staff is to enable them to earn a livelihood and to earn their money and to buy their things and to support their families. And so that's why we're trying, even though we're really pushing the envelope with getting them back, even though everything isn't perfect. But we just want our staff to be able to earn their living with dignity, and to, they're very supportive of the project. During the storm, they kept an eye, on Jungle Bay, and I'm very grateful for the staff and the community of Soufriere that did that. And we supported them. We have some other things we won't go into it now, that we're doing Jungle Bay to support the community and to support Dominica going forward. So everyone, you know, we all have to be patient, all hands on deck, and we have to work together. And I do believe when we reflect on Hurricane Maria, 5 years from now, whatever it is, we will probably see a stronger, more vibrant Dominica, hopefully, if we make it that way.
And speaking of adjustments, what sort of financial blow or adjustments would there have to be in the wake of Hurricane Maria?
You mean to Jungle Bay specifically?
Jungle Bay specifically.
Even though we didn't lose the structures, we lost a lot of, like the small tools, we lost some storage and the temporary office. We had some temporary housing for our staff and the delays. It's pretty significant, you know, but again, everything else we say, you know, this is a natural disaster, it's force majeure. We kind of have to just make adjustments and go forward from here.
So despite all this, if all goes well, we can look forward to seeing something in December 2018?
That is what we're aiming for. When I talked to the guys, I said maybe. They said, no, Mr. Raphael, let's stick to our date, have confidence in us. We will make it happen. So, you know, the onus is not on me, it's on the team. They are committed to doing what it takes to be able to open December 2018. I tell you, we are 100% committed to making that happen. We know now even more so the importance of Jungle Bay to the island's economy and the island's tourism plan in light of the damage to the other properties. So we're determined to make it happen.
Okay, great. And as we wrap up our discussion, any sort of message you would like to leave with people of Soufriere, as Scott said, or even to your employees or the Dominican public on the whole about Jungle Bay as we wrap up? Yeah,
well, you know, we always overcoming adversities, and the original Jungle Bay plant, it came about, you know, amidst of a time when people didn't think it could happen, you know, in a desolate place, and so we're always the underdog fighting an uphill battle. But with the determination, when you work together with perseverance and with patience, you know, Jungle Bay did thrive. It became one of the top hotels in the Caribbean, and we are poised to do that again. And if, as an island, we have that attitude, I think we will be one of the best places to live in the future. So my Dominican people, I just encourage you to be positive. It's a very difficult time. We're all going through it. But stay positive and don't turn on each other. Work together. Because if we work together, the synergy, we can really achieve more than we think we can. Okay?
Mr. Raphael, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And we just heard from the owner of the Jungle Bay Resort and Spa, Mr. Sam Raphael, on that establishment's recovery efforts in the wake of Hurricane Maria, and of course looking forward to a brand new Jungle Bay Resort and Spa in December 2018. This is Andrea Louie reporting for Channel 5 News.
Prime Minister Skerrit recently announced a cabinet decision to remove port duty from a long list of household items and building materials. But, as Julian Morris reports, the removal of port duty on certain items does not automatically result in cheaper consumer goods.
Exempting businesses from paying VAT or any other port duties does not necessarily mean that consumers will pay less at the retail stores. And it's really up to the consumer as to whether they want to buy expensive items at retail stores. According to the controller of the Inland Revenue Division, in the absence of any system to protect consumers, price gouging is what will result.
When I mentioned that no one can force, in fact, we are all aware that there is nothing like a really price control. And when you have these opportunities, concessions are granted. There are people who really try to take advantage of that and see how much they can benefit from the consumers. Okay, so what we are urging is that really you pay no import duties at the port of entry, and that's an expense you would have had on a usual basis. Your cost of sales, that would increase your cost of sales. So saying that you pay no import duties, obviously, as the comptroller of customs mentioned, I mean, there are certain items that has a high level of duty. He mentioned things like grapes. So, I mean, when you do not pay duty on those things and you want to sell it at the same price I mean, that's just going to be very ridiculous. So what we are informing is that, and making them people aware that, yes, there is no price control to say, well, we can tell somebody that to sell at a particular price. We cannot do that. However, we just informing them and advising them that they should not just go ahead and buy things at rates that are just exorbitant. Okay, so that's what I mean. I know the concessions granted are for the benefit of everybody, even though you do not import directly. But as a consumer, you buy in from someone who imports, then you should not have to pay the same price for an item when you got relief for a number of taxes and duties. So we're just advising people that, yes, no import duties. They have to pay the VAT when VAT is a consumer tax. Yes, they have to pay it when they buy from the retailer, but they shouldn't really pay exorbitant prices or even higher prices for any item that has been granted concessions. We all, as consumers and customers of business places, wish that there was a specific price that certain items could be sold at. But I don't think there's anyone really responsible for that, and the Inland Revenue itself cannot, or we don't have any authority to tell someone how they should sell something. But we only hope that, the people who are out there selling can be considerate and not take advantage of the consumers. Okay, we do not want anyone to charge VAT when they are not registered. And we know it has happened in the past where people who are not registered charge people a VAT when they go to buy. So it's we, the consumers, when we go to buy, let's ensure that, people do not take advantage of us. And you say, there are people who make choices. And many of us believe we cannot do without certain items. And I think that, we need to make a sacrifice. If we figure something is too expensive, we don't buy it. We have to make a sacrifice. But when we go ahead and we purchase it, we're going to keep raising the prices or keeping it at a certain level. Okay, so let's just try to, there's a competition out there, and there are other sellers who are willing to sell at a lower price. Let's try to buy from the people who are very reasonable with us.
Essentially, what the Prime Minister expected with the concessions was to ensure that the consumers go home with some degree of savings. But as to whether that is happening is anyone's guess.
The Prime Minister, whom I must commend for his bold initiative, has given the commercial sector an avenue to take advantage of the reduced duties on foodstuff and building materials. Foodstuff mainly attract duties of practically 45%, and some can reach as high as 150%, especially with the case of carrots and other frozen vegetables. Some juices attract duties of approximately 130%. The Prime Minister took the initiative again, I said, to reduce the duties on foodstuff to 5.5%. which signifies a vast reduction in duties. I'm talking from experience. I can go to any store, see any item, and know what the duties are like. I will just take an example, carrots, which I believe the overall duty on carrots is about 126%. The duties now have been reduced to 5.5%. I am trying to understand the reasons why I would not expect carrots to drop in price. To me, it makes absolutely no mathematical sense. We have things like grapes and apples, the duties is almost 70%. And as I said, the basic food items, a lot of them is about 45%. I would expect, I'm not sure if it's happening yet, that prices on the shelf, as the Prime Minister indicated, should go down.
The Port Authority itself is putting a number of measures in place to make things easier for the public.
We want to make sure that those persons, especially the families and friends who are moving individual barrels and boxes, that we will try to deal with them as early as possible within the early morning from 8 to about 2, because we know that some of them come from very far areas and have to go back up to the countryside. And so if we are able to deal with them in the morning, then it will make it far easier for us to be able to deal with the truckers later in the afternoon. That will continue until we can ease up the storage issues that we have at the port. And I must say that we've been getting quite a bit of cooperation from the Customs Department. They have been working side by side with us and have been extending themselves to working long hours at the port to facilitate the movement of cargo on the port. One of the other things that we're going to seek to do is, until it is necessary, we are in fact going to work on Saturdays, where we're going to work from 9 to 3 along with the customs to facilitate again the persons moving cargo, especially individual persons who want to clear barrels, boxes and crates, to be able to do that. And we did so last week Saturday, and quite a few people took advantage of it. But we think we will again publicize it as much as we can so that persons can take advantage of it. We're doing so all in an effort to ensure that persons can receive the packages that have been sent to them within 2 to 3 days after the goods have landed on the port. Clearly, for those individuals who may be awaiting a generator or their tarpaulins or a mattress, we want to make sure that they can get it within the shortest possible time.
For Channel 5 News, Julian Morris reporting.
This has been the Channel 5 News. Feel free to contact us at news@marpin2k4.com. On behalf of the production team, I am Idona John Baptist. Thanks for watching. Join us tomorrow.